Hi boho friends, I'm Peverly and I am glad you could join me today as I talk about scrap busting. We've all been there, we've made beautiful clothes out of our boho fabrics and then we end up with scraps and we're not quite sure what to do with them. So I wanted to share some of my ideas and I hope you will find them helpful as far as what to do with some scraps. Now I wanted to start with some woven fabrics first. One of my first things I did as a scrap buster were these little beanbag squares. I actually made these when my kids were younger, I should say, as part of a homemade beanbag toss game. I actually filled these with rice and it's just a nice little weight. And the bonus part is now I use these as pattern weights. And also if you're a juggler, they make awesome juggling toys. Another idea that is often shared or suggested as a scrap buster is making hair scrunchies. This is just a little velvet one. They're easy to make. There are a lot of tutorials out there that you can search for, and it's great. I love it. I have long hair. I'm always tying my hair back, so it's a great scrap buster for that. Another thing that I've done, and I did this with little cut off denim scraps from my kids' jeans, is cut these down and I just zigzag the edges, and I use these as actually coasters for our dining room table. You can use this with denim. Anything heavyweight would do. I did not add a middle layer batting or anything in between. I just cut it and serged it, and it's really come in handy. I like it, and I just toss it in the wash. It's been suggested often to use scraps, small scraps, as stuffing for, say, like a cat bed or a dog bed. I've done this once, and my main suggestion would be to have a separate removable cover so that when the cat bed gets soiled, you can just take off the cover and wash that rather than washing the actual stuffed bed itself, because especially when it's a thicker bed, it's really hard to dry that. And I made that mistake once and I didn't dry it thoroughly. I thought it was dry, but apparently on the inside it wasn't dry and it got all moldy and it was disgusting and I threw it away. But I can see where if it's just a thinner layer, it would work just fine. Obviously, like a quilt patch kind of thing, if you have woven fabrics, I like to work with the smallest size I like to work with is 4-inch squares, and I cut 4, 5, and 6-inch squares depending on the size of my scrap piece. But that also works for knit fabric. So I'm just gonna jump ahead a little bit to knits, because I do I use cotton lycra a lot, especially for my boys. And I use some really fun prints for them. And I just, I thought would be a really great way to remember what I've done for them over the years, what I've made for them over the years. And these are 4-inch squares, and I'm just keeping them in a Ziploc baggie for now, until I have enough for something like a throw. This is about how thick I have. How many I have. That's the 4-inch squares, and I have them in a Ziploc baggie. But I also have 5-inch squares and 6-inch squares. I don't have as many of the 6-inch squares because those are larger pieces, and I tend to try and use up a lot. These are mostly cotton lycra. I have some French terry mixed in there. But you want something with a little bit more structure. When I put these together, I will not be putting quilt batting in between. I'm just going to, put them together. And I actually got the idea when I went to my college bookstore George Washington University in Washington, D.C. a few years back, and they had like a t-shirt throw out of GW logo t-shirts, but it wasn't quilted, it was just big squares put together. So that's where I got the idea from. So that's fun. Now, for woven fabrics, another fun idea would be making little cute fabric wallets. I've done this pattern before, and it's Lazy Girl Designs, but I did also find a similar pattern online, and I will post that link in the comment section after I do this. And it's fun, it's quick, it lasts a while. I use mine to keep like ID cards and stuff. It's also good for when you're just, you don't want to use a purse, but you want to carry some of your important stuff with you. Okay. I also found this pattern. I haven't really done it yet, but it's really fun. It's a fob used with zipper in it. But even if you don't use the zipper idea, you can just use some of your scraps to make key fobs like this. All right, so I'm looking through my notes to make sure I don't miss anything. Now, as far as knit fabric goes, you can also do the hair ties or the hair scrunchies. That's awesome. It's really good for that. I'm going to kind of skip back to woven fabric. Smaller pieces, you can use them as pocket bags for jean pockets or whatever. And this is just a fun little print, and I used it. It's a Paw Patrol print, and I used it when the kids were little, and I had quite a bit left, so I used it for the pockets that I made for their, for their jeans. And they were just, it was so really cute, their reaction when they saw that fabric, because they remembered it. Now, as far as knit fabric goes, for bigger pieces, the obvious uses would be like hood liner. I used this camo that I bought, camo jersey I bought from Boho a while back. I made that into a shirt for my boys. I had some fabric left over, so I used it for this hoodie, liner for the hoodie, and a little piping for the shoulder seams. I use scraps for cuffs and, bands, waistbands, especially for kids' clothing since they're a lot smaller. Underwear. This is a cotton lycra I got in one of my Boho Fabrics knit clearance boxes a while back. The print's a little wild for what I normally like to wear, but it was perfect for underwear. And this is the Stitch Upon a Time Bunsies pattern. This is the full coverage one, so it's kind of big. And don't forget kids' underwear. I have used smaller pieces for kids' boxer shorts, so that was really handy for that. Other pieces you can do, socks. Although I've been hit or miss with the socks over here because my kids didn't like the seam on their toes, so hopefully you have better luck than I do. Now, for even smaller scraps that you don't have enough to, say, put into other pieces of clothing, flannel and heavy cotton French terry are really good for reusable wipes. I used smaller scraps of a flannel to make a 2-layer wipe, and I just serged around the edges, nothing fancy. And I use this for wiping off makeup, or just, kind of wiping mouth after brushing or something like that. This is actually what my kids use too, for after they brush their teeth and stuff. And heavy cotton French terry is also really good for that. I meant to serge these into 2 layers I got lazy and I never did. But the great thing is it doesn't ravel, so I use it as is, and I just throw it in the wash and it's perfect. And I really like the heavy cotton French terry. These are all boho scraps actually. So that's my favorite wipe right now. And it's, you know, it's so quick, I just toss it in there. Let's see. Also, you know, some final thoughts. Once we get past this health emergency, it would be, and you know, and kids are back in school, and when we have a normal schedule again, contact the art teacher at your kid's school, because they often can use fabric scraps. I know my kids had projects when they were in school that used fabric, and you know, the teacher was grateful for the donation. So I hope this was useful and you get some ideas out of it. Thanks again for joining me today, and for a chance at a $5 boho gift card, please just leave a comment on what you have done with your scraps in the past, and there will probably be other ideas that others will find useful as well. So take care, be well, stay safe, and we'll see you around.